Okay, so let's go into the steps. Step one.
Step one, show the child that you are ultimately the caregiver and in control of the items and the activities in the environment that they would want to have access to, play with, hold on to. So as a parent, you have the right to bring anything you want into the environment. You can decide if they can bring a gun into the house or not. You can decide if they can have access to video games or Fortnite or whatever. So as that caregiver, you decide what comes into the environment. You also have to show the child that you ultimately get to control what they can get those things for and what they can't, how they can gain them, how they can lose them, how long they can have them. And step one just forces a parent to consider, how would I control this control this reinforcer if it's needed to be? How do I give it? How do I control it? And how do I show the child that I can do those two things as needed? That's step one. Step two.
What would you say? Sorry, just a quick question. What would you say to parents who, now their kids have full access to everything? Is it then the parents coming in, starting to lock things up? Like, is it a gradual step towards that?
I think anything we do, it all depends. The best path forward is the one that makes the most sense for that family in that situation. In some cases, it's best to just wipe the slate clean and say, okay, we need to start taking these items out of this room and being able to bring them into the room as they're developing that. Really, what happens is, what it generally looks like is there's toys all over the home. There's toys all over the floor. And when the family asks the child, hey, come on over here and have something to eat, the child says no, and then they go off and play. And then the family starts to get upset and they start to yell and they start to grab the child and pull him to the table. And then the child pulls away. And so now you've got this pull game. But the reason the child's pulling away is because he's pulling back towards something he thinks is going to be better. Mm-hmm. And so by taking control over those items and just cleaning up the house, putting them into bins or putting them into rooms where if you needed to, you could close the door or put it up on a shelf where the child can't reach it. Then when you say, hey, I need you to sit down, and the child says, I don't really want to, you can say, okay, you don't have to. It's your choice. But you can't go off and play. You can't go off and have whatever you want. Like if I went to work and I said, you know what, I'm just not going to work today. They're not going to keep paying me for that job. But I know our kids aren't at work, but they are learning. Their job is to learn how to live in society in a way that's successful for them. So I think what we're trying to do with step one is show the child that we ultimately do get to control, as their caregivers, their access to the reinforcement, and that the family needs to focus on making sure that they can do that when they need to. They can give it when they need to, and they can withhold it when they need to, so that we can make sure we use those things as reinforcement for the behavior we want to see more of. But we can also use it as part of extinction when we have a behavior that we don't want to see happening more, that isn't beneficial to that child long term.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
So that moves us on to step two.
Mm-hmm.
Step two is to show the child that you are fun. Make every interaction you have with the child as fun as and enjoyable of an experience for them, so that ultimately they're going to want to engage with you. And then when you do give your instructions in later steps, they have a reason to want to engage because they want to maintain that relationship and that fun activity. I push my families to be 75% pairing, positive interaction, reinforcing, just being there, not asking. And that allows them only up to 25% of the time where they could be giving that child an instruction
and positive,
or having an expectation.
What the child finds reinforcing, not what I might find reinforcing. So that's often, a change too for the parents to try to figure out, okay, what he's doing right now. He's rolling on the ground. Okay, maybe I could bring more fun in if I go and I help him to roll maybe a little bit harder, faster, or give pressure. So it's a mindset, it's a learning process definitely for the parents at the beginning.
Yeah, the best way to teach it is how, as the caregiver, teacher, therapist, whatever you want to call yourself, whatever role you're in, how do you make everything the child would like to do more fun because you're a part of it? I don't believe in traditional ABA, LOVA style reinforcement of go play as a reinforcer. I'm absolutely 100% against go play as a reinforcer. I think come play with me should be your reinforcer. I'll play with you your way and make it more fun because I'm a part of it. That needs to be the reinforcer, because we're not just trying to get a child to do what we've asked them to do so that they can play on their own, but we're trying to get them to see us as the direction by which all the wonderful things of life can come. We're the way you get the best things in life is through your parents, through your caregivers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard, people say you want to be the grandma, or Sasha Long says you want to be the chocolate chip cookie.
Yeah, you want to be the fun dispenser.
Yeah, there you go, exactly.
So that would bring us to step 3. Now that we've shown the child that we are ultimately able to give or not give their favorite things or their favorite activities based upon their behavior choices, and we've shown that being with us is more fun than being alone, that the swings is great, but the swings with Robert is hysterical. He's laughing and tickling and jumping out of the way and pretending he got hit in the face or making funny faces and making me laugh. I don't want the swings. I want Robert in the swings. So how do I get that? And once the child is trying to pull you into their fun, now you're going to find that you're in a better teaching position, because rather than trying to pull the child to learn from you, they're pulling you, trying to get more from you. And as they're trying to get more from you, you're now in a position of high probability where you can give an instruction. And there's a reason why the child would want to follow that instruction. So if a child is taking me and saying, come, push me on the swings, and I say, sure, touch your nose, or sure, give me a high five, they're going to be much more likely to go, oh yeah, or yeah, because I want you to do something. Under the desire for engagement, they're going to be more likely to cooperate with whatever simple instructions I give them. So step 3 talks about how and when you actually give instructions. It says, show the child that you can be trusted. Say what you mean and mean what you say. Always follow through on instructions you give, but pick your instructions wisely and choose to give them at the right times with the right language. The 3 basic things that I talk about with this is give your instructions under high probability when you already know what the child wants from you, when there's already a motivator and a reason why they would do it. Because like we said earlier, if you don't know why they would do it, they probably won't. Use the right type of language. If you're going to ask a question, accept the answer. Don't say, hey, do you want to come over here and work? And then when the child says no, say, oh yeah, you need to work, or you need to go to the bathroom. If you're going to say, do you want something? Let the child say yes or no. If you're going to ask them if they want to do something, let them say yes or no. If it is going to be an instruction, though, you need to make it clear that there's an expectation. And so we use expectation language. I want, I need, it's time to. Or, I want you to put this in the garbage. I need you to stop that right now and come put this where we asked you to. Or it's time to put that down and come finish your work, whatever it might be. And when there's expectation language, then we can follow through, because now we've given that child, we've set that event that now there's going to be a consequence, positive or negative, depending on what you do. Now,
yeah, it's also just modeling integrity.
Absolutely. I say what I mean, and I mean what I say. And I'm not going to tell you that if you don't, I don't want parents to tell a kid, if you lay on the floor here, I'm just going to get in the car and I'm going to leave you here. Because all that child, the first time they might get up out of fear, and they might come with you, and you might think, oh, that worked. But one of these days, they're going to be motivated enough to not want to get up. And when you don't leave them and they say, oh, well, I don't have to believe what they're saying. Why should I trust what he's saying? Because he's just going to show me that it's not true. You're right. Integrity is what we're working for. Have integrity in the way that you work with your child, in the way that you play with your child. If you're doing step 3 correctly, it's coming out of step 2. You're playing, you're having fun, you're making life better. The child now wants something from you, and you go, oh, here's my opportunity. Yeah, do me a favor, give me a high five, or tap this table, or whatever learning goal you want to work on that's easy for them to be able to engage in, because we're trying to set up a system, like we're trying to earn their willingness to cooperate with more challenging things down the road. We start with simple and easy things. So that brings us to step number 4, which says, show the child that cooperation, that following instructions, that making good behavior choices is easy, fun, and generally leads to good things. By step number 4, we're really focused on the principle of positive reinforcement. How do we set a child up to be successful and then show them that success leads to good things? Oh, I just asked you to touch your nose. You touch your nose. Look at all these wonderful things. I keep playing. I keep tickling. We keep pushing on the swings. Just give me a high five. Look at all these wonderful things. And what we're trying to do with step 4 is set up this new reality, this turn of the table to some degree, that says that instructions from mom or instructions from dad are no longer things to be avoided because they take me out of the fun I'm having. Like usually a child is watching TV and then mom comes in and says, hey, I need you to turn that off and come over here and eat. And so I was like, no, I don't want to eat. Why would I do that? I'm doing exactly what I want to be doing. So instructions become paired with aversives. They become paired with negative situations, movement from high value to low value. And we want the exact opposite to be true. We want our instructions to always lead her to higher value. So we want the child to see our instructions as opportunities for more fun, opportunities for better things. Now, if we're playing and engaged and we give the child an instruction and they make a positive choice, we want to add more of that fun thing or give more positive reinforcement or somehow make their environment better because they cooperated. That's what step 4 talks about. Show your child that following instructions is easy and fun and always leads to positive outcomes. That's step 4.
You have to start small first, right?
Yeah. Step 5 really starts to focus on that. It's funny how whenever I explain the 7 steps, the next question always leads to the next step. I've done some research on this. I've done some effort, and we're talking thousands of kids now that we've worked with using these principles in this way. And it's quite remarkable how every child is different. Every way that you implement the 7 steps is going to look different because each child is different. But if you can hold true to these 7 principles, you're going to find yourself the best path towards better cooperation.
And again, the beautiful thing is it's not only something for a child with autism or like a learning disability. So often when we work in the family's home, we explain it to the family, we show it with a child that's like, oh, that's awesome. I can do it with my 10-year-old too. Or, my 3-year-old will profit so much from it too. It's such a great tool. So I think that's so wonderful about the 7 steps.
Yeah, there's nothing. In fact, a lot of the kids I work with now, I'm not quite sure they would normally have gotten a diagnosis in the past or anywhere else, and that the major function of their autism diagnosis is a lack of instructional control. In fact, there's a lot of kids that have been diagnosed over the years who, once you earn instructional control and or instructional motivation, whatever we want to call it, once they've decided, learning from Robert and mom and dad is the most fun I can have. That's what I want to be doing. Some of these kids have the ability to learn really quickly. And suddenly once they're learning and they're making these better choices and they see the benefits of those better choices and it gets connected to the social world in a way that they're not used to, and the benefits of that become apparent, we see kids make incredible progress in some cases, like mind-blowing progress.
Right. Because they're generalizing too. Like if they're going from one classroom to another classroom, that setting maybe sets up this expectation that they're going to be reinforced also.
It's much easier to generalize from the beginning than it is to try to teach something in a fake setting and then generalize it later. That we've learned. And for me, the question just comes, well, did this kid ever really truly have autism? I don't know. It's not important. It's not for me to say. I don't diagnose anyone. In fact, you don't have to have autism for me to want to work with you. I just need to know that you're struggling at some area in your life, and that the people that you or the people in charge of your betterment, your life, feel like there's things that they don't know how to do to help you. And I want to come in and see if I can be a detective and figure out behaviorally what we can do based on the principles to help you. And that's really my approach. But your question was, do you start small and how do you build up? Well, that goes into step number 5. Step 5 says, in the beginning, give consistent reinforcement for each and every positive behavior. And then over time, slowly increase the difficulty level and slowly increase the variable ratio of the reinforcement as you go. And the way I explain this to families is really quickly, is just like, there's this horrible old saying, like, if you throw a frog into a boiling pot, he'll jump out. If you want to boil a frog, you have to throw him into a lukewarm pot and then slowly turn the heat up over time. Now, why are we boiling
that
frogs?
Visual.
I've never heard that saying. I don't think you should use that example anymore.
Why are we boiling frogs? I have no idea. I think they used to use them for frog legs or something in the South. But the truth, apparently it's a true statement and if it makes sense. If you throw a frog into a boiling pot of water, he's going to jump out. Why wouldn't he?
Yeah.
If you throw a frog, but the thing about a frog is if you throw him into a lukewarm pot, he'll stay there comfortably and happily. And the idea is if you turn the temperature up slowly over time, the child doesn't notice the differences, but they just continue to enjoy what they're doing and continues to be a part of it and don't have any reason to leave. We want that same kind of an idea in our teaching setting. So we start with the simplest of instructions. Give me a high five. Oh, wait a second. Good job waiting. Here you go. Touch your nose, clap your hands. Anything that we think the child could do without thinking, without any problem. Not a learning goal, but just a willingness to cooperate. We start with really simple instructions, things that the child would be likely to want to do.
Mm-hmm. The important thing is the things that we know the child can do. I think that's important to mention.
Yeah. Start with things that they can do. And then if they're choosing not to, it's about some form of control or instructional control, a lack of instructional control. And then we start to teach the child through experience that cooperation with simple things always leads to better things. It always leads you to better outcomes. Life is better, more fun. Mom is more fun. Mom gives me more things. We engage in more activities when we just touch our nose, when we just do this. And then over time, step 5 says you start to increase the variable ratio of reinforcement. So once the child is engaged and wanting to work with you and seeing, oh, this is easy, I don't mind doing this, then you slowly start to sneak in a second instruction, easy instruction. Or maybe you try to get 2 or 3 things in before you give that reinforcement. And you thin out the ratio of the reinforcement. And then ultimately you start to increase the difficulty level of what you're asking. And you build a teaching setting towards being able to use your actual learning goals, whatever they may be for that child. That's what step 5 does. And so, yeah, you start with the simplest possible things and you build from success. Once I have a successful back and forth relationship where the child likes interacting with me and I'm getting them to cooperate, but also seeing the benefit of that cooperation and I'm making their life better because of it, then I can slowly over time increase the difficulty level of what I'm asking or the amount of what I'm asking. But I have to regiment that over time.
Right. And I guess as a parent or a teacher, they'd have to just kind of, experiment a little bit and see, okay, maybe I'm expecting too much, pull back a little bit, and then just kind of do that little dance. Is that right?
Yeah, there's a little bit of an art to it. And I think families get better and better at it as we teach them and as we demonstrate and practice it.
And I think that's why it's important to, at least at the beginning, to have some support. And you can ask your question and, we can help how to.
Right, trying to just do this on your own.
Experience possible.
There's some people out there who can read the 7 steps. Like we offer a free guide on the website. That's a 16-page guide that just explains the 7 steps, just for free. Here you go. This is all you need to do. If you can figure out how to do this with your child, you're going to have better success. You're going to have a better relationship and get better cooperation. Now, if you have trouble with that, if reading the page, the 7 steps and understanding the concepts is hard for you to implement, then there's additional supports for you. We have some pre-recorded courses you can take, and we have one-to-one coaching you can get. So, that's what we're trying to make available to people all over the world. Having said that, there is a dance to step 5. And when we give a family goals to go along with it, we give them instructional control goals, things we know the child can already do. So they're only asking the child to do things that are easy for them. And then slowly we're giving them new goals, the simplest, easiest things the child should be able to learn to do. And then we slowly help stair step it upwards as we go until the child's involved in a back and forth learning situation where they're spending 20, 30 minutes around one reinforcer, happily answering every question, even hard ones, in order to keep maintaining that fun activity. And that if they choose not to, then the family could stop the activity and say, well, if you don't want to participate, that's fine. You don't have to. Unfortunately, the work has to stop too. And that's where we get into step 7. So step 6 is a little bit of a catch-all. It's important information. But I like it. I like putting it here. What step 6 is, show that you understand your child's priorities as well as your own. And really, we want to make sure 2 things. One, that we have a good understanding of what really motivates the child. What do they want at any moment in time? Like if we're sitting here on the bed at night, what do they want? Do they want tickles and hugs? Do they want to be left alone? When they're, in the bathroom, do they want to be splashing with the water? Or do they want to be taking a shower? Do they want to be taking a bath? Do they want to have toys? Do they not? The better we understand what they would enjoy at any point in time, the better we can use it to support their learning. The better we can use it as a tool to help us. So in step 6 is where we really make a pretty detailed list of prioritization of child's reinforcers. We would do some kind of a reinforcer inventory. everything from food to drinks to items to activities, things that they love to do with us or with friends. And we try to make sure that we know what's more valuable than others, because we want to make sure that the better the cooperation, the better the effort that the child is putting in, the more rewarding the response is, the more and better we're offering reinforcement to them, so that they see that if I just kind of slough my way through it, yeah, I'm going to keep getting positive things from dad. But if I really focus and stop what I'm doing and really concentrate, he's going to give me more and better, because that's within step 6. He's going to go out of his way to do that.
And knowing that it can change too, right? Like what might work one day for a kid and be really fun might not work the next day.
Well, having a full list makes you more flexible to play with those things as they come.
Okay.
Hey, I really know this is something you don't love it. Well, where do I go? What do I do? Well, luckily, we've got 3 other things on our list around that area that might be more. We can offer those things. Oh, so you don't want to play this? Do you want to do ping pong? Do you want to, what do you, oh, you want to watch TV? Okay, let's watch TV. I don't try to force my reinforcers on a child ever. I always want the teaching to be based upon what the child wants to be doing. What I will do is I'll end an activity at a certain point and say, okay, well, now we're done with this because we've done it for a while and we've had lots of fun with it. And I'm afraid that your desire for it is going to start weaning. And I don't want to keep teaching you through something you're no longer interested in. So I may stop something and then move on to another activity and say, now what do you want to play with? Here's your choices. Anything within the realm of what's available to us. You pick what you want to do. We'll pick how we get to keep doing it.
Yeah.
How we
and
get
that's
to have
always a small percentage of kids where it's really hard to find something. They have
very few motivators.
Behaviors. Yeah. So, I mean, you really have to think out of the box and have to try different activities, things that might work.
I tell families that the reason a lot of kids develop the types of self-discovery behaviors and they don't develop the social behaviors, probably in some instances comes from a really early misunderstanding of the society's understanding of what motivates that child. Like if I'm a parent and I have this pen and I say, oh, I want to teach my child the value of this pen. So I'm going to show them, look, you can draw circles and you can make a smiley face and look at the things you can do with this pen. And every time the child touches the pen, I try to get them to make a smiley face and show them how they can draw with it. The child might not have any interest in that smiley face, might not have any interest in drawing. The pen might not have no value to them under those terms. Yet if I leave the child alone with the pen and they look at it and they try things with it and they do this or they, I like that. They find that they can find their joys in life through self-discovery. And that interaction becomes an impetus to finding what I like. Every time mom and the pen are together, she takes the pen and makes me do things I don't want to do with it. Every time I can get this pen away from mom, I can truly enjoy what the value of the pen is. And so kids learn early on, really early on, that the way to benefit from life is to get the things I like or things I might be interested in away from other people and explore them on my own and do self-exploration in them and really figure out what the joy is. And then I learned to avoid mom and dad because mom and dad only take the fun out of things. They only come and talk to me when they come and try to play with me in a way that I don't like. They're tickling me. I don't like tickles. They're trying to give me kisses and hugs when I did something they like, but I don't like kisses and hugs. Or I want to do this and they just want to write. And so inadvertently, just our lack of understanding about what motivates a child causes us to build that barrier between them and the social world. And I think that the sooner we understand that and the sooner we start working on that with a young child, the sooner we can take some of that out of their learning repertoire, out of their learning history, and really show them that socialization is where things come from. That's why step 2 is so important, pairing ourselves in such high levels. And step 6, and making sure that we're always aware of what their motivators are and making those things available through us. So they see us as the conduit to good things rather than the barrier to good things. The last part of step 6 is knowing our own priorities, being able to make good decisions about what we really want to work on right now. The example I use is, are we trying to just get some kind of cooperation from a child who generally says no to everything? Or are we trying to get the child to do that cooperation without any help? Are they trying to do it independently? Or are we trying to get them to do it without being told first? Or are we trying to get them to do it and enjoy doing it and have a smile on their face and not yell and scream when they're doing it. Like, these are all different levels of types of skills that we might be wanting to deal with a child. But if we don't, as a team, know what our priority is, and dad is holding out for this child to do it without crying, but mom is saying, no, you can cry, but I need you to do this, because if you don't do this, then you're not going to be able to do these other things that we've got planned that are all great things for you. We just want the whole team to be on the same page with that. And step 7 is where we make sure that we are. What is our priority in the moment? What do we want to reinforce? What do we not want to reinforce?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it can be confusing for the kid also. Dad says no, and then they go run to mom because they know that mom is going to say yes.
Yeah. And the team needs to be unified, not unified in being strict, or not be unified in being permissive, unified in knowing what our goals are and knowing what we can do that help move us toward those goals, whether the child's choosing a positive behavior that we'd like to see more of, or whether they're doing something that we say, oh, this is not something that's going to benefit them in the future, and we want to make sure that we're seeing less of it. Regardless of what they're doing in the moment, everyone working with them should have the same idea of what it is we want to reinforce, what it is we want to motivate, what it is we want to, suggest or push away from. What is it we want to say? No, that kind of behavior is not going to last, is not going to be good for you in school. So if I let you get away with that now, you're going to struggle when you get into the school classroom. So I'm going to make sure that you're not benefiting from that. But as soon as you make this other choice or some other choice that's more meaningful to you, I'm going to make sure that that's really well reinforced for you. And that's what steps 2, 3, and 4 is all about. 2, be fun. 3, give your instruction when you're ready to. 4, give that positive reinforcement, making that happen. And we build that snowball going downhill. But that leads us to step 7. Step 7 is what we do when steps 1 through 6 are in place, and we're doing everything we can to make cooperation valuable and worth it and make sense to the child, engagement to make sense to the child. But they still, for whatever reason, past experience, the situation, the way that it occurs, they're still choosing to make a refusal to one of those instructions that we think are important enough to follow through on, some kind of an expectation, or whether they choose an inappropriate behavior. Maybe they hit their sister or they start screaming because they're not happy with something. We do want to understand why they're screaming. What is it that's causing that? But if we start to behave in certain ways that ultimately reinforce screaming, the bottom line is that child will scream more quickly. They'll scream more regularly whenever things aren't going the way that they want. So we have to identify what it is that's causing the screaming and try to decide, do we want this antecedent in the environment and then teach to it? Or do we want to just avoid that antecedent right now and keep it out of the environment so that we can focus on other things? That goes into our priorities of step 6. But once we've decided this is what we're working towards, and these are the goals that we're expecting, and when we see a behavior that flies against that, or is something that is counterproductive for that child's future, then we need to jump into step 7. And step 7 says, show the child that choosing an inappropriate behavior, if you have a better word for inappropriate, I'll take it. Basically, that means a behavior that a parent would rather not see again under those circumstances. But if you see an inappropriate behavior, or if the child gives a direct refusal to cooperate with something that you've decided is important enough to give an instruction on, then you need to make sure that no form of reinforcement follows that behavior. It basically just says we cannot reinforce behaviors we don't want to see again. I mean, that just makes sense when you understand the principle of reinforcement. Reinforcement will increase the things it follows. So as a teacher, guide, caregiver, we have to make sure that reinforcement doesn't follow the things we don't want to see increase. Having done everything else with step 6 all throughout our day, 75% fun, being very careful about instructions we give, knowing their priorities, our own priorities, giving lots of reinforcement, slowly increasing the difficulty level over time, is going to ease us from having to use step 7. But the truth of the matter is, when it comes time for it, and we see that inappropriate behavior, or we see that refusal behavior that we don't want to reinforce, it becomes our job to then be able to cut off all forms of reinforcement. Where a traditional ABA approach might say, okay, well, was that behavior for attention? Don't give attention. Was it for escape? Don't give escape. I'm more focused on, let's take all known reinforcers off the table. I like to teach my families to think of your everyday steps 1 through 6, your everyday environment. The lights are on and everything is available. Basically, you turned on the lights to the amusement park and now Disneyland is open and we're playing a thing. But guess what? You're going to have to stand in some lines. You stand in a line, you get the ride. You stand in the line, you get the ride. But if you decide you don't want to stand in the line, that's fine. Don't stand in the line. You don't get the ride anymore. If you start to use an inappropriate behavior, like you start to hit or yell, that's fine. We're just going to turn off the amusement park and we'll go outside where there's a parking lot. Stand in the parking lot for a while. You have the right to be in the parking lot if you choose. You don't have the right to make Disneyland be open when you want, the way you want, and make sure that no one else gets to be on the rides, that only you get to go there and there's no lines, right? That nobody gets in this world. And just because a child has a different brain structure and a way of thinking and way of interacting or socially identifying with the world, or has a different way of handling stimuli, that doesn't mean that they get to decide when the park is open, who gets to be in the park with them, because that's not gonna last. Your parents can maybe set that up for you, but it's not going to last outside of your first 5 to 7 years of life. It's going to get really problematic for everyone around you. And that's what we're trying to avoid. I don't want children who are diagnosed with autism to have a problematic life. I want them to figure out how to have a life where they get along and they enjoy their life and they're able to find people that get them and work with them, but they don't feel this strong need or desire to control everyone around them, which is what we see with a lot of the kids that we come in and are asked to work with. So I know I'm talking a lot, but we're probably getting done here, but step 7, just to finish it, basically the 2 principles involved in step 7 are extinction, not allowing reinforcement to follow behavior that we don't want to reinforce. And if necessary, we use something called mini consequences, which is kind of like that give and take. You're cooperating, I'm giving, you're cooperating, I'm giving. Oh, you're not cooperating? Well, I'm going to block it. And if you're going to keep not cooperating, I'm going to take it out of your hands. If you're going to keep not cooperating, I'm going to put it behind my back. And I'm going to show you that you're getting further away from the things that you want when you're making these choices. So that you're put in that CEO reflexive, that conditioned motivating operation reflexive, where the child says, oh, things are starting to get worse. I don't want that. Oh, I know. I just need to touch my nose, or I just need to follow this instruction and things will go back. Oh, and now I get to play again. And we just set it up so that they always see that when you're starting to make those inappropriate choices, that we give them that reminder. Oh, hey, well, you're not going to be able to keep playing.
Chance. Yeah.
But there's still a chance to turn it around immediately. I don't take things away for long periods of time. We don't take timeouts and say, okay, you're going to have to go on a timeout for 10 minutes. We're not trying to punish the child and give any retribution for doing the wrong thing. We're just trying to make sure that the things that they're doing that are not going to be ultimately effective for them do not get reinforced. And so we just have to block forms of reinforcement for as long as it takes for them to make a better choice or a different choice, something that we do want to reinforce. And then we start reinforcement again. So I teach the families, okay, the amusement park is open, the light switch is on, give your instructions, do your 75%, have your fun, do your thing, make life great. Get your instructions slowly built up over time. But if the child says, I'm not going to do it, say, no problem, you don't have to, light switch off. How long do you want to stay here?
Right. And these steps are not necessarily linear, right? Like you can be jumping from one thing to another and you're constantly pairing that 75% of the time. Yeah.
I appreciate you saying that, because they're not, I didn't have a better way than steps to say it, but they're not like steps up a stair. You don't do step 1, then step 2, then step 3. I look at the steps across as principles across this way, and you're responsible to all 7 principles in whatever measure they're needed. And your child will ultimately determine, based upon their behavior, whether you're able to keep spending more and more time in step 2, or no, now that they're showing me a motivation, maybe I'm going to give an instruction. Oh, but now they did it, so now I'm going to go to step 4 and give positive reinforcement. Oh, I got to keep my mind on step 6. What do I want to reinforce? What I don't want to reinforce? Okay, now
maybe
I'm back to pairing again.
Like a wheel or like a circle visual, where it's kind of all at the same time.
Yeah, that's a good explanation. Yeah.
I just don't want anything to ever be behind you, right? I want it all to be in front of you. Maybe a semicircle in front of you, like a rainbow in front of you, because you have to always be attending to everything.
I see.
Like, am I really in control of the reinforcers? Because as soon as I can no longer control the give or take of a reinforcer, the child is no longer put in a motivational situation where they have to make a decision. I want them to make the decision. Do you want to make a choice that I know is not in your best interest? Make it. That's your choice. I'm not going to stop you. But I'm also going to make sure that you don't see there's benefit in it, that you don't mistakenly think that this is the best way to go, because that's what ultimately leads you down the wrong path of good social interaction with people in your life. That's what causes you to not be able to make relationships. I'm not trying to cause someone to change their viewpoint on the world. I'm not trying to say someone has to love social interaction or have to be comfortable with other people. I'm just saying that when you're demonstrating behavior that we know is going to make your life harder for you, if we can put you in a motivational position that allows you to start to see other benefits, and then you start to see the benefit of those things, and that allows you to start doing those things more, it's who's the loser in that situation? Now that's the process. That's what the 7 steps is all about, and how and why we use it. And it guides my entire ABA program. Everything I do falls into, does this fit with the 7 steps?
You've been watching Autism Knows No Borders. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Also, we'd love to hear from you, so let us know what you think in the comments section. Click here to watch this interview in its entirety. You can also find us on your favorite podcast app. Tune in each week for engaging conversations of how people across the globe are inspiring change and building community. Thanks for watching. Take care.